Hello and welcome. Let's talk tabletop. Today's topic or subject or question comes from Zadie or X80 or, dude, you gotta come up with a regular name so I don't have 20 pronunciations to try. And he asks what somebody who is not a skilled artist can do about maps in their campaigns. Like if they're not really good at drawing, what can they do? And there's tons of resources out there. So I'm going to go through a couple of my favorites so you guys have plenty to look at and do. If you're not super good at putting pen to paper or markers or crayons or computer, Photoshop, whatever it happens to, if you're not super creative on your own, what's some of the good stuff you can do to come up with good maps for your campaign? Not only like dungeon maps, but like regional maps, world maps, etc., etc. And of course, the first thing you can do is to cannibalize everything. Zadie, I can't count the number of D&D magazines, D&D modules, different campaign setting books, and all kinds of stuff like that, where the only reason I bought it was to flip to the maps and put it on the scanner by my computer and just scan the map and put it back on the shelf, or just tear it out and throw the rest away. Just steal everything out of all the resources. You don't have to use it the way they tell you. You don't have to use whatever region that is. Change all the names, rearrange the cities, do whatever you want, but if you can't come up with your own stuff, just steal something out of one of the books. I've got, what was it? The Dragon's Demand has wonderful dungeon designs in it that have served as different dungeons and campaigns that I've played, and your players won't know the difference. They don't have the modules in front of them. They're not going to be like, oh, this dungeon is from such and such module. You stole that. They're not going to know that. They can't see the whole map. They don't know what you're looking at. What else? As far as cannibalizing is kind of a harsh word, but basically you're stealing it. Use a real map. Get a map of Florida and turn it upside down and replace the ocean with mountains and plot out the top 10, top 7 most populated cities, and make 2 of them into cities and the other 5 into villages, and put a little dotted line between them to show where the roads are. Done. Hey, not a lot of work to that. Or get a map of Australia and keep it exactly the way it is because it's full of monsters and things that want you dead. If you're in the United States, find a county map, because my God, there's so many counties in all the states, it's kind of ridiculous. Find a county map of the state you live in and turn those into feudalistic regions where there's a lord in every county, and put a capital city where the state capital is, and then plot 7 or 8 roads. Hey, done. There's your regional map. As far as world maps go, I don't draw world maps. I really don't. I've never had any reason to plot a planet. I've never had a campaign that was so sweeping or involved so much travel or involved going from one continent to the other, though that would be interesting. I've never had the desire to put that much work into a map that will only be looked at now and then. I always do what I call the reserve. Draw the reserve, like Yellowstone National Park, the reserve. Make it rectangle shaped. Put all the stuff that's in your campaign in it, and then surround it by mountains. Even if it's a rectangle and it looks silly, your players won't worry about anything that's outside it because they don't need to. What's beyond those mountains? Not in the campaign. Doesn't matter. Oh, okay. Well, we keep on going this way. And if they wander off the map, hey, you're out of the campaign until your player comes back, because there's nothing going on out there that has anything to do with this story. Sorry. So you other three, you've got a week to do whatever you want while so and so is going beyond the mountains for no other reason than to go beyond the mountains. And the other three get downtime to brew potions or craft armor or whatever it happens to be, go shopping, make money, gamble, go whoring, whatever it happens to be, while they're being stubborn enough to go out into the big white abyss that the DM did not plan for because it doesn't matter. And yes, I speak from experience, and yes, I have done that to somebody before. If it's not pertinent to the campaign, don't. I mean, yeah, you can be like, welcome to the world of blah-de-blah, and you show them the big world map, and then you put it away, and then it's gone. They don't need to see it, and they're not interested in seeing it because it doesn't have anything to do with them. If it takes place in this city and the surrounding lands, they want a map of that city and the surrounding lands. Zoom in as far in as you can until the borders touch everything that is important to the campaign, and everything else doesn't matter. Don't do the work. Don't tax yourself for something that's not going to come into play. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but don't make it harder than it needs to be. Another thing you can do for maps and stuff is to look up OnePage Dungeons. Now, I didn't know about these until very recently, but apparently it's a fad now that people are getting like one piece of paper and they'll draw their dungeon on it, and then they'll number the rooms and then put everything that's in all the rooms, all the monsters and treasures, tricks and traps, and the rule is you can only use the one piece of paper. And that's brilliant, and it always works, and there's thousands of them. Like, if you need a dungeon real fast, it's like, oh, we discovered this trapdoor under a windmill. I wonder where it goes. It might be a dungeon. You just kind of reach over into the thousands of one-page dungeons, and you're like, oh, ooh, it looks like it's a gnoll's lair, or oh, ooh, it looks like it was a lich's hideout, or oh, ooh, there was a shape-shifting dragoness who lived here, and she kept all of her silver in one place, and it's just one-page dungeon. It could be 3 rooms, it could be 13 rooms. It's not going to be big. It could be like a side quest dungeon. It's still got all the regular stuff that a dungeon has in it. Seriously, once you're done with this video, get onto Google and type one-page dungeon, and you will be amazed at the thousands of super creative dungeons. You can just print it out on one piece of paper, because that's the rule. One-page dungeon. Map and everything that has to do with it. Monsters, tricks, traps, treasures, etc. One page. That's all they're allowed to use, and there are so many good ones. So go look up one-page dungeons, and you will never want for a creative dungeon map idea ever again. Even if you take 5 or 6 of them and mush them together into different floors or whatever, they're amazing, and that is an untapped source that I didn't even know about until a couple of months ago. So go look up one-page dungeons. They're amazing. If you want to go like somewhat fancier than like pen and paper, you could go to InkCarnot, which is a website that has tools enough to create like full color like fantasy maps, and I'll put a link or something in the description below so you can go to it. And it is a sign up, and you do have to pay for it, but they're really pretty, and it's a very simple tool to use. So if you really want like a full color, pretty fantasy map with nice fonts, and they've already got little pictures of castles and little pictures of cities, and you can stick them all over your map, and you can paint it like a desert, and it'll do all the sand effects for you and all kinds of stuff like that. InkCarnot is probably one of the best tools I've seen as far as like straight up map making without demanding a lot of the user. It's really cool. that's really all I can think of is to steal everything, use OnePage Dungeons, and check out InkCarnot if you're feeling creative, or what else is on kind of on the side? You can look into various like animes and mangas and stuff, because a lot of like the generic fantasy animes will start their series by showing you a world map. Or hell, if you go into Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time or Sword of Truth, most of those like big sprawling like fantasy novel series will straight up have a map like in the front couple of pages or in the back couple of pages. And again, you can turn it upside down or rearrange the cities, or trace the continent so you've got the ocean and all the mountains, and then hey, there's a region. You can just put cities where you want. It's amazing. And now that I've said I'm done, I'm coming up with more stuff. One of the easiest things you can do is to get a piece of paper and a big fistful of dice, like all different shaped, D4s, D6s, D8s, etc., and then throw them on the page. And it makes for some very interesting regions, because you can say the D20s are cities. So wherever D20 is, put a city. All the D4s are tiny little, towns. So you pick up the D4, put a little mark there. That's a tiny little town or a hamlet or something. All the D10s are mountains. Get a bunch of D10s and make sure you can throw them. And it doesn't have to make geological sense. It's a fantasy map. All the D10s are crossroads where you do trade, or all the D12s are famous landmarks where you'll find statues that touch the sky and who the hell built these things so big and why, etc., whatever it happens to be. Throw a big fistful of dice and just kind of trace around them for the layout of the region, and then decide what each dice represents, and it'll basically randomize a map for you. It's very easy. And then dungeon maps are another discussion entirely. We may do another video about that later, how to, dungeon design tips may come later. But Zadie's question was more along the lines of regions and world maps and stuff for people that aren't artistically talented. So hopefully that helped you out, Zadie. I hope it did. How do you guys, comments below, how do you guys figure out how to draw your world maps or your region maps? Do you have any specific way that you like to do it? Do you draw your mountains first? Do you draw your oceans first? How do you design your world maps? Do you steal stuff from other sources and turn it upside down, etc.? Do you have a method to the madness, or do you just draw little circles to represent cities, or do you draw like a little castle? Okay, that's the capital, and then you draw a little farmer house. Okay, that's a hamlet. What are your tastes when it comes to like regional maps and stuff? I'd like to hear like some different people talk about it, because hey, it's Let's Talk Tabletop, so get to talking. So I'll see you guys next time. Keep gaming.